The Mothman Prophecies. The people of Point Pleasant began to feel a sense of unease and dread as the sightings of the Mothman continued. They couldn't shake the feeling that something was coming, something terrible and inevitable, and that the Mothman was trying to warn them. Some people started to have nightmares about the creature, waking up in a cold sweat and feeling as though the Mothman was watching them, even when they were awake. Others reported strange occurrences, objects moving on their own, strange noises in the night, and a general feeling of being watched. But despite their fears, many people still didn't believe that the Mothman was real. They dismissed the sightings as hallucinations or hoaxes or just the overactive imaginations of a small-town community. That all changed on December 15, 1967. The Silver Bridge collapsed without warning, sending cars and trucks plunging into the icy waters below. The bridge had been a lifeline for the people of Point Pleasant, connecting them to the wider world, and now it was gone. In the aftermath of the disaster, the people of Point Pleasant began to wonder if the Mothman was somehow connected to the bridge collapse. Had the creature been warning them all along, trying to save them from the tragedy that had befallen them? The sightings of the Mothman continued, and with each passing day, the people of Point Pleasant grew more and more convinced that the creature was a malevolent force sent to bring death and destruction to their town. They started to avoid going out at night, and many people left town altogether, unable to bear the constant feeling of unease and foreboding. Even now, decades later, the legend of the Mothman persists in Point Pleasant. Some say that they can still hear the fluttering of wings on quiet nights and see the glowing red eyes of the creature watching them from the shadows. And no one knows for sure what the Mothman's true intentions are, or when it will appear again to warn of impending doom. Before we go on with the stories, I remind you to subscribe and like the video to support the channel. The bridge collapse. It was a cold and gray day in Point Pleasant when the first signs of trouble began to appear. The town was bustling with activity, with people going about their business and cars and trucks streaming across the Silver Bridge, the lifeline that connected the town to the rest of the world. But then, something strange happened. People started to see a creature in the sky, a dark shape with wings that seemed to be following the cars as they crossed the bridge. At first, people thought it was a bird or a plane, but as it got closer, they realized that it was something else entirely. The creature had glowing red eyes, and its wings were massive, spanning the width of the bridge. It swooped down low, causing cars to swerve and honk their horns in alarm. And then, just as suddenly as it had appeared, the creature was gone. But the sighting of the creature was only the beginning. Over the next few weeks, people began to have strange dreams and visions in which they saw the creature again and again, always with a sense of foreboding and doom. And then, on December 15, 1967, disaster struck. The Silver Bridge collapsed without warning, sending cars and trucks plunging into the icy waters below. It was one of the deadliest bridge disasters in U.S. history, with 46 people losing their lives. In the aftermath of the disaster, people began to wonder if the creature they had seen before the collapse was somehow connected to the tragedy. Some believed that the Mothman had been trying to warn them of the impending disaster, but that no one had taken the creature's ominous warning seriously. Others, however, believed that the Mothman was not a benign force, but rather a malevolent one, sent to bring death and destruction to the town of Point Pleasant. They believed that the creature had caused the bridge to collapse, and that it would continue to haunt the town until it had claimed all of its victims. And so, even now, decades later, the legend of the Mothman persists in Point Pleasant. People still report sightings of the creature, always with a sense of dread and unease. And no one knows for sure what the Mothman's true intentions are, or when it will strike again. But one thing is certain, the people of Point Pleasant will never forget the day that the Mothman came to town, and the bridge collapsed into the icy waters below. The curse of the Mothman. Deep in the heart of the Appalachian Mountains, there was a legend that has terrified generations of people. It was said that a cursed entity known as the Mothman roamed the dark forests, bringing misfortune and death to anyone who crossed its path. Some say that the Mothman was once a man, cursed by a vengeful witch to roam the earth for all eternity. Others believe that it is a demon, summoned from the depths of hell to bring chaos and destruction to the world. But regardless of its origins, there was no denying the Mothman's terrifying power. People who encountered the creature would suffer terrible fates, with their lives falling apart in the most unexpected and tragic ways. One man claimed to have seen the Mothman on the day of his wedding. He ignored the creature's warnings and went ahead with the ceremony, only to have his bride die in a freak accident the very next day. Another man reported seeing the Mothman before a major business deal, and despite feeling uneasy, He went ahead with the deal anyway, but soon after, his business failed, and he lost everything he had worked so hard to build. And then there were the stories of people who simply disappeared after encountering the Mothman. They were never seen or heard from again, leaving behind only rumors and whispers of the curse that had befallen them. But perhaps the most terrifying aspect of the Mothman's curse was the sense of inevitability that came with it. Once you had encountered the creature, it was only a matter of time before your life began to unravel, your fortunes turning to dust and your loved ones falling victim to tragedy. And so, the legend of the Mothman lived on, a dark and terrifying force that haunted the Appalachian Mountains and the people who dared to venture into its realm. No one knew how to break the curse of the Mothman, or even if it was possible. All they knew was that the creature's power was real, and that it was only a matter of time before it claimed its next victim, the Mothman Cult. In the aftermath of the Point Pleasant sightings, a small group of people became obsessed with the Mothman. They believed that the creature was not just a harbinger of doom, but a divine being sent to guide them towards a higher purpose. The group called themselves the Mothman Cult, and they began to hold secret rituals in the dark forests surrounding Point Pleasant. They would gather around bonfires, chanting strange incantations and performing bizarre rites in honor of their strange deity. The Mothman Cult believed that by appeasing the creature, they could gain its favor and protection from the disasters it foretold. They would offer sacrifices to the Mothman, leaving gifts of food, jewelry, and even human hair at the base of the trees where they believed the creature lived. But as the months went on, the rituals of the Mothman Cult became darker and more disturbing. They would perform blood sacrifices, cutting themselves and offering their own blood to the creature. Some even began to carve strange symbols into their flesh, believing that it would bring them closer to their divine master. People in Point Pleasant began to fear the Mothman Cult, believing that they were a dangerous and unstable group. But the members of the cult were undeterred, believing that their faith would protect them from the disasters that the Mothman predicted. But then, one night, the cult disappeared. There were no signs of struggle or violence. They simply vanished into thin air, leaving behind only their strange symbols and offerings to the Mothman. Some say that the Mothman took them, claiming them as sacrifices in exchange for their devotion. Others believe that the cult simply went underground, continuing their rituals in secret. But regardless of what happened to the Mothman Cult, the legend of their strange and unsettling beliefs lives on, a testament to the terrifying power of the Mothman and the dangers of worshipping strange and otherworldly beings. The Mothman Returns. As the sightings of the Mothman continued, people became more and more convinced that it was not just a coincidence. The creature seemed to be following a pattern, appearing in certain areas at certain times of the year. And with each sighting, the sense of unease grew stronger. In small towns and villages, people began to lock their doors at night and avoid going out after dark. They talked in hushed whispers about the Mothman, fearing that speaking its name aloud might attract its attention. The dreams and visions of the Mothman became more frequent and vivid, with people reporting that the creature was becoming more and more insistent in its warnings. Some claimed that the creature was even communicating with them telepathically, filling their minds with a sense of dread and urgency. The media began to take notice of the Mothman sightings, with news outlets running stories about the strange creature and its ominous warnings. But with each report, the panic and fear grew stronger, and people began to wonder if the Mothman was somehow manipulating their thoughts and emotions. As the months passed, the sightings became more sporadic, and people began to relax a little, but the sense of unease never truly went away. People knew that the Mothman could return at any moment, and that its intentions were still unknown. And then, one night, the Mothman returned. This time, it was seen hovering over a small town, its wings beating slowly and methodically. People watched in terror as the creature circled overhead, emitting an otherworldly screeching sound that sent shivers down their spines. And then, just as suddenly as it had appeared, the Mothman vanished once again, leaving people to wonder what it had been trying to tell them and what disaster might be looming on the horizon. To this day, people still report sightings of the Mothman, and the legend of the creature continues to grow. Whether it is a harbinger of doom or a misunderstood entity trying to communicate with us, no one knows for sure. But one thing is certain, the Mothman will always be a source of fear and fascination for those who have encountered it. Thanks for tuning into our scary story today. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to our channel for more spooky tales like this one. Until next time, stay safe and keep your lights on at night.